Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get 3 integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves 3 times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd, or an odd, cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64. And it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. If I split this shape into 2 sets of 6 blocks, when we're asked to shade in 3/6, for each one of those, or each set of blocks, I'm going to shade in 3 of the 6. So that's 3 for the first set, and this is 3 for the second set. And that's our answer. Now you might notice that 3 over 6 is the same as a half, because we can divide on 1 by 3, and so all I need to do is shade in a half. Or you might convert 3 over 6 into 6 over 12. And there's 12 squares altogether, so it's 6 of the 12 squares. There's lots of ways of doing this question. To convert between meters and centimeters, we times by 100. So we do 12.31 times by 100, which would be 1,231 centimeters. This question's all about like terms. So what we can do is we can add this 10u with this 11u to make 21u. We can also add this 6v with this plus 4v to make 10v. We can also add this 10w to this minus 6w. So 10 take away 6 is 4w, so plus 4w. But we can't add a u term to a v term to a w term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21u plus 10v plus 4w. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. So we're going to start off by writing the sequence out. And what you might notice straight away is that each of the terms is increased by 2. And so we're asked to find the next 2 terms. So we're just going to keep this pattern going. So increase it by 2, that would be 20. Increase by 2 again, and that would be 22. So what we need to do is find out where the graph is at its highest, and so it's highest here. And so if we go down from there, we find out what year it is. Well, these years seem to be going up in 1, so that's 1950, 1951, 1952. So the answer would be 1952. You will need to use a paper and pencil to do this physically. You can't really do this on the computer. And make sure you have a ruler and a compass. So the first thing we're going to do is draw our 10 centimeter line. And we're going to get our compass and we're going to measure the 6 centimeters for the left hand side. So we're going to measure 6 centimeters on our compass. And we're going to just put a little arc there. We can do the same on the other side for 8 centimeters. So we're going to do our 8 centimeter arc from the right hand side, and we're going to put the point of the compass here. And it should be like that. And you can see where the two arcs overlap, which is here, and we can join these up with straight lines. And it says to measure the angle x, so we're going to need a protractor for this bit. I'm going to put our protractor here with the crosshairs matching here. So we're going to be looking at the inside, the outside one, and it comes up as 37 degrees. So our answer is 37 degrees. So our sequence, our nth term, is 20 times n plus 6. For the fifth term, n would be 5, so it's 20 times 5 plus 6. 20 times 5 is 100, 100 plus 6 is 106. We're going to start off by finding what the multiplier will be. So we'll start off with 100%, and it's a decrease of 32.6%, so we're going to take that away. And that will leave the percentage as 67.4%. Next we need to convert that into a decimal. So we're going to divide it by 100, and that will make it into a multiplier. And the beauty about a multiplier is all we need to do is get the amount from the question, 486, and times it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us. And it will give us the answer of 327.56. To find the area of a circle, we use the formula area equals pi r squared, or pi times r squared. We're given that the fact that the radius is 12, so it would be pi times 144. Type that into the calculator and you get 452.389 blah blah blah. And the question asks us to round it to 2 decimal places, so that would be 452.39. The first thing we need to do is work out what angle CBD is. So we're looking for angle CBD, and that's going to be 180 take away 170, and the reason being is it's angles on straight line. Angles on straight line add up to 180, so that's going to be 10 degrees, so this will be 10 degrees. We then need to find out what angle CDB is, and this is obviously going to be 10 degrees as well because it's angles in an isosceles. So this will be 10 degrees, and the reason will be that it's an isosceles triangle. And to find out what x is going to be, it's going to be 180 subtract 10 plus 10. And the reason for that is it's angles in a triangle add up to 180, so that's going to be 160 degrees. Make sure you state your reasons for every step of the working out, because there's normally quite a few marks for the reasons. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation, and I can put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject, so we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says expand your answer fully, so we're just going to expand the brackets. 7m plus 70. Whenever you have north lines, they will always be parallel. So what we have here is we have a straight line going through two parallel lines, which are our two north lines, and therefore this angle here is going to equal this angle here. And the reason for that is that the two angles are alternate, they're z angles. So we can say that that is 135, and I always like to try and show the examiner the reasons. So that's because it's alternate angles. And we know also that angles on a point add up to 360. So this red angle represents the bearing of A from B. And so to find this angle out, what we're going to do is just 360 take away 135. And the reason for that is angles on a point equal 360 degrees. And when we work that out, we get the answer of 225. So our bearing is 225 degrees. Okay, so we're going to start by writing this out a little bit bigger, give us a bit more space. So it's minus 6x is less than 60. And we're going to do our tram lines down. And we're going to start by dividing both sides by minus 6. Because that's what this is doing, it's timesing the x by minus 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by minus 6. So that gets rid of the minus 6 on the left hand side. And it's going to be 60 divided by minus 6, which will be minus 10. Now we've got to be really careful here, because whenever you times or divide both sides by a negative, you must switch the inequality. So instead of pointing to the left, it's now going to point to the right. So our answer is x is greater than minus 10. We can't work out what x is straight away, but we can find this value here. And we know with Pythagoras we can find a third length if we've got other two in a right angle triangle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a and b were labelled. C is always opposite the right angle, so it'd be 49 squared plus b squared equals 68 squared. And 49 squared is 2,401. And 68 squared is 4,624. So we are solving here, so let's get our lines down. And we're going to start by subtracting the 2,401 from both sides. So we've got b squared equals 2,223. Then we're going to square root both sides, and we've got b equal to 47.148, blah blah blah. Okay, we're now looking at the second diagram, and this time we're going to have a, we've got our b, and we're going to call x the c. So it'd be a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but this time a is 39. B we are given as 47.148, we've just worked that out, and we're looking for c. In fact, we can call it x now. Okay, so we need to square that. So we do 39 squared plus 47.148 squared, and that will be 3,744 equal to x squared. And we'll just get our lines in, because we need to square root both sides, and we get 61.188 blah 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 is equal to x. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that would be 61.19. This looks like it's a really tricky question, and it is a little bit tricky, but it's a little bit easier than maybe it looks. The highest common factor is found when you have the prime factors, which we do, of two numbers, and you put them into a Venn diagram. Then you can find the prime factor, the highest common factor, by multiplying all the numbers in the overlap. So we're going to rewrite these numbers. Just instead of squared, we're just going to write them out without index form. Just makes it a bit easier. And so I'm just removing the squares. And we're going to draw ourselves a Venn diagram. So let's just do a rectangle at the outside. I'm going to try and do some nice circles here. Try my best anyway. Okay, so on the left hand side we have the 450, on the right hand side we have the 132. So we'll start with the 450 and the numbers. So actually looking at the numbers, looking at the factors at the top, the prime factors, we can see they both have a 2 in them. So I cross them both out and put 2 in the middle. We can see they both have a 3 in them. So cross those 3's out and put a 3 in the middle. And then 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has the 2 and the 11. So to find the highest common factor, as I said, you multiply all the numbers that are in the middle. And so the highest common factor will be 6. When proving two triangles are congruent, and congruent means exactly the same, we're going to have one of 4 answers. Either side angle side is the same, angle angle side, or angle side angle. Side 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 are the same, or they have the same right angle, hypotenuse and side. This question doesn't have a right angle, so we can cross that out. It has 2 lengths, so 2 sides, but not 3, so we can cross that one out. It only has 1 angle, so we can cross this one out. So we're looking to see whether it has the same side, then angle, then side. So here we've got 13 as a side, then 139 as an angle, then 6 as a side. 13 as a side, 139 as an angle, and then 6 as a side. So they have the side, angle, side. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smiles and Rainbows. So we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. So I'm going to write this question out a bit bigger, just so we've got a bit more room. And we're asked to solve. So what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to start by putting our solving lines in. And we're going to try and figure out what we do to get x on its own. So we're going to start by subtracting 9 to both sides. And so that will leave us with the 10x squared on the left hand side and then 250 on the right. Then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we've got x squared equals 25. And then we're going to square root both sides. Now, this does give us 5, but it also gives us negative 5, because minus 5 times minus 5 is also 25. So our two solutions are 5 and minus 5. When you have a fraction, it's just a fancy way of showing a divide. So this is x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 3. And indices rules say that when you divide two powers with the same base, you subtract the powers, so it becomes 11 take away 3. 11 take away 3 is 8, so that's x to the power of 8. With this question, you've just got to know what the different functions look like. So with C and D, we've got quadratic functions. One's a positive quadratic, which is a U shape. One's a negative quadratic, which is a kind of upside down U shape or an N shape. And here we don't have that, so we can get rid of those in our thoughts straight away. A is a positive cubic, which goes up, then down, then up again. And B is a negative cubic, which goes down, up, and then down again. So this one here goes up, down, up again. That's going to be a positive cubic. So our answer is A. There are two shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. But because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed. And that gives us 1,526.814, blah, blah, blah. And so the total volume is 7,634.070, blah, 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 plus the 1,526.814, blah, 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 which equals 9,160.884, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it two decimal places, so when we round that, we get 9,160.88. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5, and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5. But if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5. It's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power of 4, w to the power of 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power of 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times two powers of the same base, and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8. And we're going to add the w to the power of 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8, w to the power of 10. So we've got a right angle triangle here, and we've given two lengths and an angle, or it involves two lengths and angles. So that's going to be a trigonometry question. And to do trigonometry, we start off by labelling the sides. So we've got the hypotenuse opposite the right angle, the opposite is opposite the marked angle, and the adjacent is between the right angle and the marked angle. And we notice that the opposite doesn't have a number or a letter next to it, so we get rid of that. Next step is to draw in our triangles. So they are going to be SO, CA, TOA. We've crossed out the O, so we can cross out the TOA and the SAW, and that leaves us with the CA. So write out the formula, which is cos x equals A over H. Now the angle is what x represents in our formula, so that's going to be cos 42 equals what A is represented with an x, and the hypotenuse is 7.3. So next we get our solving lines in, and notice to get x on its own, what we're going to do is just times both sides by 7.3. And when we do that, 7.3 times cos 42, and be careful when you type in cos 42, close the brackets, then times it by 7.3. A lot of calculators open brackets when you type in sine, cos or tan. And we get 5.424 blah 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 equals x. So around to 2 decimal places, it will be 5.42. First thing we notice with these simultaneous equations is the coefficients of the x and the y's are different. But if you look at the y's, there's a -3 here and there's a +6 here. So all we need to do is times the top one by 2, and they'll both be 6, and we ignore the signs. So we're going to quickly multiply everything in the top by 2 to make the coefficients of the y's the same. So we're going to times that by 2, times that by 2, and times that by 2. So we get 6x minus 6y equals 30. So I'm just going to write that in again. So 6x minus 6y equals 30. And I'm going to write in the second equation underneath, because that's how we do it with simultaneous equations. Now, simultaneous equations, we work downwards. So I'm just going to show circles showing that we're going downwards here. And what we want to do is have a look at the signs for the y's, because we made the y's the same. And if they are the same sign, we're going to subtract. If they are different signs, we're going to add. Well, we've got a minus and a plus, so they are different signs. So we're going to add. And I'm going to work out the sums. So 6x plus 4x is 10x. Now this is a crucial bit. Minus 6y plus, which is just a plus, 6y is 0, and that's why we added to get rid of the 6y's. 30 plus 10 is 40. I'm going to just solve that. So we're going to divide both sides by 10, and we get x equals 4. Now that's one of the solutions, but we've got to find out what y is as well. So we're going to look at this first equation here, and we're going to just write out that, but substituting in the 4. So it's going to be 3 times 4 minus 3y equals 15. Get our solving lines in. So 3 times 4 is 12, so we're going to take away 12 for both sides. So we've got minus 3y equals 15, take away 12, which is 3. And then we're going to divide by the minus 3 both sides. So it's going to be y equals minus 1. And we can check this by substituting the x and the y into the second equation. So 4 times 4 plus 6 times minus 1, which is equal to 10. It doesn't look like it, but we actually have a quadratic here. And the reason it doesn't look like it is because we don't have an x term. But as long as we have an x squared term and a number term, we definitely have a quadratic. And notice something about this second number. It's a negative version of a square number, and that will always be the case because this question is using something called difference of two squareds. And it's very, very simple to work out. What you do is you put down two sets of brackets, and you square root the first term. Well, that's just going to be x. And you put the positive and negative versions of the square root. So we're going to square root 121, which is 11. So we're going to put plus 11 and minus 11, and that's it. Now, when we expand that, and we're just going to quickly expand that now to have a look, it's going to be x squared plus 11x minus 11x minus 121. And notice that the two x terms cancel each other out, which is why we don't have the x terms. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site, OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.